Welcome, everybody, to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology podcast with Robert Glasscock, Thomas Miller here, and we are doing an audio-video simulcast. So if you'd like to see us talking through this, you can check that out on the Fun Astrology YouTube podcast channel. We have a listener question today that is going to spring us into not only answering this question, but also we're going to talk about a new product that we have that can help you do exactly the same thing that this listener and caller is asking about. So this is from our SpeakPipe. Go to the funastrologypodcast.com, or let's see, funastrology.com website. In the upper left is the orange button, and you can click it and leave us a message like this.
Hello, Thomas and Robert. Thank you for your wonderful podcast. I have a question for you that I think touches on some of your favorite topics. In short, my question is, how do you decide when to take the step of rectifying a chart to determine someone's accurate rising sign? The longer version of the story is that I recently received a corrected version of my son's birth certificate that included a birth time that was 16 minutes different than what I believed his birth time to originally be, which would mean that his rising sign is not, as I believed, 7 degrees of Aries, but is 29 degrees and 59 seconds Pisces. For obvious reasons, not only is that a completely different sign, but more interestingly, it is in the very last second of Pisces. Given the very narrow window of accuracy here, I'm curious whether I should take the additional step of rectifying his chart to determine the most accurate possible version of his birth time. Thank you.
Boy, that's just classic, isn't it, Robert? That's exactly why you do a rectification.
Yeah, this is one of those times where you really must try and rectify the chart. 29 degrees and 59 minutes of a sign is so close to being the next sign that the usual methods, for example, if the original time of birth had 7 degrees Aries rising, and then this new birth certificate had 20 degrees of Pisces. All right, now you've got a very distinct difference. And since the first house rules the physical body, you can begin asking questions about the head for Aries, the color of the face, depending on where Mars is the face and the skin tone ruddy, red? Do they have a scar, mole, or mark on the head or face? All Aries rising, all ruled by Mars. Or do they have feet problems? Do they have digestive upsets? And on with the Pisces implications. But in this case, you really have no choice. You can start, I would, with the time on the birth certificate that gives you this 29 degrees and 59 minutes of Pisces rising, but ignore the ascendant. Look at the midheaven and use the method that Thomas and I outline in this rectification. It's a short course, but it's very clear.
We'll tell you about it here in just a few minutes at the end.
Good. You want to look at the midheaven alone, only, based on this time of birth that gave you that very late degree of Pisces rising. Forget the ascendant. Look at the midheaven. And move that midheaven forward and backward through the zodiac to make aspects to the birth planets, conjunctions, sextiles, squares, trines, oppositions, maybe inconjuncts, which are 150 degrees. So you may, for example, see that midheaven, let's say, is at 20-something Sag. And if you move it forward, you may see, oh, look, at age 10 degrees, 1 degree for a year, it opposes his Jupiter in his 4th house in Gemini, which can correspond to maybe a move or a relocation. It can correspond to a change of schools. Whatever you can think of to associate with the midheaven opposite Jupiter and his age, based on 1 degree for a year, and ask about an event that corresponds to the aspect you're seeing. And if you get a yes, we moved. Good. Then if you say, no, we didn't move when I was 10, we moved when I was 12. Okay, adjust that midheaven so that it's now 12 degrees from the opposition to the Jupiter. And using that new midheaven, move it forward and back to make other aspects to the birth planets. Now it squares, the midheaven may square his Mars, let's say, in the 8th house. Did you have an accident when you were 17? Were you involved in a fender bender? Was there perhaps a death in the family? It depends on what you see and what house maybe Mars rules and so on. But you're looking with this new midheaven, making new aspects, because you've already tried it with the opposition to Jupiter. Now you're trying it with another planet that had aspects at a different age. And if you play around with this method, 2 or 3 questions are probably all you'll need to ask. And you have to allow for an orb of 1 degree, maybe, because we're not clockwork, so it's not going to be exactly mathematically precise all the time. But you can get close enough with that midheaven that you feel comfortable. Yeah, this is the true midheaven. And then, depending on your software, or when we hand calculated charts, you would go to the tables of houses, and you would look for that midheaven, and then you'd look for the latitude of birth, and that would give you the ascendant that corresponds to this rectified midheaven. So that's the way it works. If you're using a computer program, just go in and change the birth time by about 4 minutes of time for 1 degree adjustment. So if you had to adjust that original midheaven by, let's say, 2 degrees, that's 8 minutes of birth time, either earlier or later. And once you do that, then you will have a rectified ascendant and you'll feel comfortable. Try it.
Well, a picture is worth 1,000 words on this, and we realize that we've done a lot of words. In fact, I think it's the 3rd episode of this podcast series is on this topic, about 45 minutes, but it's audible description. Also, Robert did this program back in 2017 for Kepler College, and the beginning of the program was rectifying Donald Trump's natal birth chart, because exactly the same situation. He is a late degree Leo. So you have to make sure. Now you could tell by his hair that he's got some Leo going on. But is this man truly a Leo rising, or is he a Virgo rising? And he was right there on the edge. So we put together a program where we pulled all of the resources that we've done. We have a couple of podcast episodes, and we have a video that Robert and I created where we're showing the chart and we walk through the rectification process of moving that midheaven, not only to align it with an earlier in life event, which Robert did by using Donald Trump's midheaven with Uranus, but then also a later in life event, which we did by showing you where the Donald Trump first presidency showed up in his chart. This is truly an amazing technique, and we wanted you to have it so that you could use it not only for yourself, your kids, your spouse, your friends. If you're doing readings, you need to know how to do this. And Robert, the video, if you watch on YouTube, clouds must be going through in Little Rock right now because the cameras just went nuclear there. I'm a little jumpy. Yeah.
Or it could be your aura.
Well, no, I'm a little jumpy with all these fires out here. So when something goes poof, I'm like, oh, wait. But anyway, we have that product available for you in the funastrology.com website. It's in the shop area. You can also click on the Robert Glasscock tab, which is right across the top menu bar, and it will be in there for you to pick up. It's definitely worth having this tool in your toolbox. If you already know the technique, well, you probably don't need the video. But if you don't and you want to see it, then it would be a great thing to pick up. funastrology.com. So, Robert, thank you for that. Wow, what a legacy of stumbling onto something by going, hey, Linda, by the way, what do I do with this? Like, all of a sudden you come across this technique that is so powerful.
It's a great technique, and I'm eternally grateful to her for not only this, but so many other valuable tidbits that she just spewed out for the 4 years or so we knew each other. She was terrific.
That's a great opportunity, and now you're spewing them out to us, and we appreciate you passing them on.
Paying it forward.
Thank you so much for listening and watching. We'll see you on the next episode of the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology podcast with Robert Glasscock.